You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 240 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings and he's not here again this week because he's still caravanning. And I've given Matt, obviously, another week off. Me and Nev have very kindly given Matt a second week off. But he is here to join us, so welcome onto the show, Matt Smith.
You are so cheeky. You're in so much trouble when I get home.
How are you, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. We've actually had, you almost can't believe the kind of week that we've actually had here. Bearing in mind it's autumn and the weather has been here in West Runton. So I was just explaining to Armando earlier that West Runton basically is equidistant between the lovely town of Sheringham and the wonderful town of Cromer, so sort of smack bang in the middle there, basically. And it is, we have had the most amazing week. It's been sunshine wall to wall, with the exception of today, where it was a dramatic change. It's been windy and rainy all day, so much so I had to rip down my awning, otherwise, because it was basically moving the caravan. The wind was so strong. So it's just, So other than today, the weather has been incredible. It's been like being on
holiday?
On holiday somewhere posh.
Well, I'm glad you're having a nice time, Matt.
We are, yes. Me, Mother and Alfie are having a splendid time, thank you.
Good. And joining us from his stately mansion in Buckinghamshire, it is the king of AV and tech. It's Sir Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello. Excuse me. Hello, everybody. Oh, there's a frog in the throat there. It's been a week of tech and AV in the studio here. I can tell you, my computer's been very hot with doing stuff. But more of that later on. But no, it's been very good indeed. Had a great meetup on Monday with our aviation chums at Heathrow, so that was great. Lots of other stuff going on in the background, which we'll tell you about later on. But yeah, It's been a very full-on week, I can tell you.
Excellent. And I'll take it you had a really good time on Monday. I did see a few updates. It seemed like you had some fun.
Yeah, and the weather was fantastic. It was a bit chilly at times, but it was one of those perfect autumn days, really bright sunshine and, really, really nice. So we enjoyed ourselves considerably.
So we have got someone else joining us live in the studio with me tonight. I'm not on my own this week. It's quite nice, actually, not to be on my own. Well, apart from the cat, because I did have Mima with me last week at some point in the show. But joining us back again in the studio for his, it must be 4 or 5 times now, I think.
Yeah, I've lost count.
Yeah, it's Armando.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually just here to fetch you your beverages during the show.
Yeah.
And for all our friends in America, caravaning is camping, since caravans are in the news right now. And I wish I was off.
Excuse me. This is not. If you're going to put the label of camping, that's just like camping implies that I'm under canvas. I can assure you, I'm not under canvas.
See, we have camping. Or RV camping. Anyways, I wish I was off camping with you, Matt.
Yeah. Hey, now look, don't start that. Honestly, I don't like this not being in the studio thing. I don't like. Ooh, it's horrible not having control. I don't like it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. No. So the caravan that I've got is one that you hook up onto the back of the car essentially, and you can take it places.
Yeah, nice.
But I don't do camping. I don't have the figure for camping.
Well, you will be camping at Oshkosh when we get you guys over there at some point, because that's half the fun of Oshkosh is camping.
Okay, good luck with that. Yeah.
So how are things with you, Armando? What's been going on in the world of Armando?
Yeah, well, real good. Actually, when I'm not working or flying, I actually am a motorcycle instructor. So today was a motorcycle instruction kind of day, and like Matt said, in East Anglia it's kind of cold and blustery and windy, so that made for an interesting out there. But other than that, took a nice flight, took the PA-28 up last weekend with some friends, and got to see some of the best sights of East Anglia. Went up to Sandringham and Castle Rising and Holcombe Hall, I think it's correct. Yeah. Landed for lunch in Peterborough, Connington. Nice little restaurant there with some good GA airplanes, and then took a nice scenic roundabout way back to Rougham, Bury St Edmunds through Essex and Suffolk.
So hang on a minute, Armando. Is there anything you can't fly or drive then? It's just like
boats. I don't like boats. So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Avoiding the water. Fair enough. Okay.
Here's how much I don't like boats. Is I have a New Mexico boating license. There you go.
Right.
And that is not a joke.
That's-
I actually do have a New Mexico boating license.
That's very random.
Not a lot of water. Landlocked New Mexico is.
So can you drive like larger vehicles and stuff, or have we avoided those?
Nah, I used to drive a 45-foot RV, actually. An RV, which I still considered camping. I lived in New Mexico, and I actually lived in a 45-foot bus for 3 years. Kind of a big, with 4 slide outs and stuff. So
jealous.
Yeah, but
so jealous.
The roads are much easier to drive on.
True.
Over there, so.
You'd struggle to get one round these roads here, I can assure you.
Yeah, I don't envy you, actually.
Indeed. Wow. Goodness me. Is there no end to your talents, sir?
Boating. That's where it ends.
Excellent. Okay.
It ends at the
You still
shoreline.
have a boating license.
Yeah, it ends at the shoreline is actually where the talents end.
Honestly.
So
Me.
we are going to welcome then onto the live chat room feed this evening. We've got loads of people in there, all the usual family members. We've got Liz Piper, Auntie Liz. Hello to you, Auntie Liz. Mariana's in the chat room. We've got Chris Griggs is in the chat room. We're scrolling down here. We've got Tanya is in the chat room.
Oh, Rick
actually,
Bell's in here.
Tanya made a funny comment over actually. Rick Bell. Philip Davis is also in the chat room. Rick Bell. Hello, Rick. Hello, Rick. And Philip Davis. I think I'm not missing anyone out. I'm just scrolling back up to the top of the list. I don't think I missed anyone out. Hopefully not. But welcome to you all, and thanks for joining us. Oh, Neil Lamworn. Good evening, Neil. Neil's just joined us. I think Neil was at your meetup, wasn't he, on Monday?
He was, yes.
Yeah.
Very nice to see him.
So welcome to you as well. And obviously Neville is in there with his blue spanner of doom to keep an eye on everything. But I was just reading, I was just trying to go back and read one of the, here we go. Tanya said in the chat room, Matt, that she'll only go camping if there's a flush toilet.
Excuse me, I have a flush toilet in my caravan. I also have a shower in my caravan, I'll have you know.
He does, Tanya, believe me. There's no way that you could ever call the caravan that Matt's got a kind of a sort of downgrade. It's more of a posh camping, I think would be the word.
I have to say, in my defence, it makes it sound like I've got the most... It's a very old caravan. It was actually made in 1994, believe it or not. So we bought an old one, but we did it up, basically. So we put a nice laminate floor in and put one of these Thetford toilet things in. And, so it's all, it is all good. Excellent. Tanya says that my caravan passes the test. This is fabulous news. Is it periwinkle? Honestly, Rick Bell, behave. Honestly. Periwinkle blue. What even is that?
Oh, right. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
You want to do some aviation?
We better do some show.
You preferred it when you couldn't talk to me properly last week, didn't you? Let's be honest, Carlos. It was a lot less hassle.
I know. So we are going to start the show, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news.
Shall I keep interrupting him, everyone? That would be fun. Yeah.
Do you wait till you're back in here next week? Anyway, we're going to start the news like we do each week with our rundown of the bloody weekly news from around the world and just blah-de-blah, blah-de-blah, blah. So if you're ready, Armando, if you're ready.
I am ready to go.
Are you ready, Nev?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Dare I ask, are you ready, Matt?
Oh, I was born ready. I'm looking forward to this.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story, and this one is on the eveningstandard.co.uk. And looks like someone else is having issues, Nev, apart from BA, because Cathay Pacific have had a slight issue with their IT department. 10 million airline passengers have had their passport and card details stolen in a major breach. So almost 10 million Cathay Pacific airline customers have had their personal data stolen as the company warned it suffered a major data breach. Passport details, credit card numbers are among pieces of information believed to have been stolen in the hack, the airline said in a statement. A total of about 9.4 million customers have been affected, blimey, with 860,000 passport numbers and 245,000 Hong Kong identity card numbers being accessed. Some 403 expired credit card numbers and 27 credit card numbers with no card verification value were accessed in the breach. The Hong Kong firm has said. The airline's chief executive, Rupert Hogg, apologised to customers, that's nice of him, and said an investigation to the breach had been launched after the news of the hack emerged on Wednesday this week. He said in a statement that he's very sorry for the concern this data security event has may have caused our passengers. We acted immediately to contain the event, commence a thorough investigation with assistance of the leading cyber security firm, and to further strengthen our IT security measures. Mr. Hogg did say that no passwords were compromised in the breach, and the company was contacting affected persons to give them information on how to protect themselves. Oh dear. It's a bit naughty. Matt, should they have had malware installed?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't listening. I was too busy chatting in the chat room.
Oh, okay.
Do you think they're going to contact all 9.4 million people?
Oh, absolutely. Every single last one of them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
sure.
I mean, I don't understand how big companies who essentially should know what they're doing can make such a sort of almost basic error, really, here. I mean, I can only assume... I don't know. I mean, everybody gets hacked. I guess it's you have to make sure you just got procedures in place, if you like, to deal with these things, and sort of get them kicked out as quickly as humanly possible. But I must admit, it does seem very worrying that we're having a spate of these. Do you know what I mean? Because this isn't the first. I mean, all right. BA have had IT problems, but to be fair, that was more sort of data center problems as opposed to being hacked, etc. But it's I don't know. I mean, because there's been a lot, not aviation related, but we've had several large companies, haven't we, Nev? I think where people have had their systems hacked.
Yes, and of course, this comes in the week where BA have just announced some more hacks that have been going on, and I received another BA Amex notification today that tells me not to worry, so I'm happy about that.
In my experience, when a company tells you not to worry, the first thing you should do is worry like heck.
Actually, I wondered whether it was from BA. That's a good point, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Did you see that one? I think there was one that's been doing the rounds on Twitter, hasn't there, where it was like one of these NatWest Bank, or it was either NatWest Bank or someone like that and there's this thing saying, that your the security of your online banking has been compromised. Please click on this secure link.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
http:// and then a bit.ly blah blah blah. So it didn't even have any vague resemblance. It's just like, really, your first clue there was it said http:// No,
I had the ones from PayPal this week, Matt. The ones they asked me to update my payment details for PayPal. And it had a really convincing email address at the email.
Right, okay,
from.
and obviously you sat down and did it immediately because
I was straight on it. Yeah, I clicked on every link they supplied.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I must say, although if you think about I know this is obviously not a good thing, but if you think about the number of transactions that go on every day. I'm surprised that there aren't more of these data breaches and data losses. And as bad as it is, and I know it's a real pain, but we just take it for granted, don't we? Whether we're shopping with Amazon, whether we're booking, a flight, and of course, don't forget, when we're booking flights, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where you had to go down the road to your travel agent to book a flight because you couldn't do it online, you couldn't do it directly with the airlines or with the website. So inevitably, the fraudsters, always one or two steps ahead of everybody else. So this is going to happen, and it's going to continue.
Confusing me here a bit, Nev, though, is, most sites use at least 128-bit encryption. A lot of them nowadays are using 256-bit encryption. I don't know whether it's because obviously these sites have to be remotely accessed from outside sources, etc., as to why. But I'm just amazed there seems to be so many of these various back doors, as they call them, open for.
Well, Of course,
abused.
what we're dealing with here, I presume, is big data centers all over the world. It's not necessarily, in Cathay's building in Hong Kong or wherever they are. These are data centers scattered all over the world, and very often things are subcontracted to third-party people. And I'm sure that they're, reputable boys and girls and all the rest of it, but there's always a possibility that there's some either inside stuff going on, or there's external hacks going on. So I think we should expect more of this, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Indeed. Chris Griggs actually in the chat room is saying, was the email from BA's Nigerian subsidiary, of course. That's one notion, which is always nice. There's also an alarming amount of chat going on about my beard currently.
Yeah,
so
I did notice that, yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
okay.
Pip started that.
It was just a thing I wanted to try, because I can't normally grow one when I'm doing the day job. You see, because normally it's not allowed. The only
thing I was slightly worried is when you get back home, we won't know where your beard ends and where the cat starts when you pick it up.
Family show.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Matt, while you're there, Matt, the next story. Obviously, Ryanair have had a couple of big stories in the news this week.
They have, yes. One of which we've chosen not to cover, basically because it's been massively overdone by the media. There is a statement also that's been released by Ryanair, which I think that was released today, wasn't it, Carlos?
Yeah, it was. It's on Sky News. Yeah,
indeed. So, but yeah, obviously we all know about the racist rant thing that basically we've done that. If you don't know about it, then obviously Google it. You'll find all the details you need. It's in all the trashy things. But it's an awful story, so we decided we made the decision not to cover it. So we'll move on to another one. This one slightly more worrying, and I do believe I'm going to mention the word Brexit here, so apologies in advance for that. This is on the Irish Examiner, and the headline is Ryanair has warned of further base closures and capacity cuts in the coming months if oil prices continue to rise and airfares continue to fall. So it's not involving Brexit. That's a surprise. That'll teach me for not reading ahead, won't it? The airline yesterday followed up its full-year profit warning from earlier this month by reporting a 7% year-on-year fall in the first half post-tax profit to 1.2 billion euros for the 6 months to the end of September. Revenues rose 8% on the same period last year to 4.79 billion euros. These were heavily driven by ancillary revenues, which were up by 27% at 1.3 billion euros. However, revenue growth has been eaten into by higher fuel, staff and passenger costs. As expected, Ryanair's average airfares fell by 3% in the first half to under 46 euros, and a near 2% fall is expected in the second half. The airline said that fares remain soft this winter due to excess capacity in Europe. Despite the figures, Ryanair's shares rose over 4% yesterday, aided by the company reiterating confidence in potential end to a long-running series of major disputes which have caused flight disruptions and investor unease, which has led to a near 30% drop in its share value in the past year. We cannot rule out further base closures or capacity cuts this winter if oil prices rise or airfares fall further, said Ryanair. It recently closed its bases in Eindhoven and Bremen. It also said that the winter trading could be positively impacted by the rate and timing of other airline failures. Oh, that's I suppose that's inevitable, I guess. But Ryanair's passenger numbers rose in the first half to 76.6 million passengers. But Chief Executive Michael O'Leary said traffic was repeatedly impacted by the worst summer of air traffic control disruptions on record. Ryanair said that it has made good progress in pilot and cabin crew union negotiations in Ireland, Italy, the UK, Germany and Portugal, and is hopeful of concluding others this side of Christmas. Whilst we hope to finalise more union agreements in the coming months, we cannot rule out occasional industrial action, but we expect their impact to be very limited. Ryanair earlier this month significantly cut its full-year profit guidance to between 1.1 billion and 1.2 billion, which could be down from 1.5 billion for its last full financial year. It also said at the time the further strike action may require full-year guidance to be lowered further. Ryanair also said that it will resist making further share buybacks pending the outcome of Brexit. There we are. I knew it would appear at some point. We view this as a modesty positive update, but refrain from getting bullish on Ryanair just yet, said Merian analyst Darren McKinley. So, I mean, actually, they are still making a profit of 1.2 billion euros, but I suppose actually that profit of 1.2 billion euros doesn't really buy that many new planes, does it? I mean, it sounds like a really big figure, but perhaps they are right to be a bit cautious. I mean, they are going through an awful, I know a lot of it is self-inflicted, isn't it? But they are going through an awful lot of sort of big changes, if you like, whether I suppose many airlines would argue that perhaps they're levelling the playing field a bit in regard to, workers' rights and things like that. So it's certainly one to watch, I think.
But they still have the ability, though, to do these mass sales. They've got a sale on at the moment when they're $9.99 fare sales. Yeah. But good luck with trying to find one, because I had a look this morning while I was at work, and I couldn't find one. I tried every airport. Okay. I couldn't find a $9.99 fare. I think you have to be very good at finding these cheap fares. What do you reckon, Nev?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've got one or two friends that sort of specialise in trying to find these cheap fares, and you think they'd be very good at it. But actually, even they could struggle to find those particular fares. And it's very odd flight times and odd locations and destinations and that sort of business.
Yeah. I mean, myself and Owen, we've done several Ryanair flights together, and they've been, I think the ones we did to Toulouse, that was only 20 quid return. So, I mean, there are definitely deals out there, but as I say, I don't think I've ever actually, you've always seen the advert banner that says, fly to Berlin for $9.99, and you click on the link, and then there is, I don't know what date it was that they were referring to, but it's certainly not obvious.
3 minutes past 2 in the morning on a Thursday evening.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Armando? Any thoughts from our guest?
Yeah, I think on the business side of it, I had a friend just recently was asking me about the marketing behind aviation, and surely there's people that do this, right? They're aviation analysts and market analysts but it's such a volatile industry, It's fuel prices going up in 30% of their destinations can affect fares, can affect a whole airlines, and there was this, if you guys listen to the Captain Al's segment just recently, sometimes people even working inside the airline don't know the inner workings and the stability of that airline, despite what's in the news and what the management is putting out publicly. So, my brother is also an airline pilot, and he's gone through, I think, 3 airlines that have closed their doors over the years. And yeah, it's just such a volatile industry. You just never really know, from one year to the next.
So, Nev, moving on, the next story is, that's obviously a special one for you.
Thank you very much indeed, Carlos. And it's on the Express. I hope everybody's had their food and drink, because this is not
the
a
story
very...
takes the... Yeah.
Yes, not a very palatable story. It says that disgusted British Airways passenger discovers business class seat soaked in urine. BA has been criticised by a business class passenger after he found his plane seat was soaked with urine, damaging his designer trousers. And he's unhappy with BA's response. A BA passenger was horrified to discover that his business class seat was indeed saturated. Andy Vickery was travelling with his wife to Jamaica when with BA when he made the disgusting realisation. That's 3 times they've used that word in less than a paragraph. After sitting down with a glass of champagne ahead of the 10-hour flight, Vickery noticed the seat was damp. He then realised his £150 Armani trousers were also wet through from the liquid. Just a point of order there, that doesn't seem very much money for a pair of Armani trousers, so he's obviously a bit of a cheapskate there. So anyway, when Vickery from Gloucester examined his pillow, he was appalled to realise that both the pillow and seat were soaked in urine. The cabin crew tried to take the seat cover off, and it was disgusting as it had soaked right through, Vickery told Metro. And he revealed how he had to put his trousers in a plastic bag and change into spare clothes he had in his hand luggage. Do you always carry a spare pair of trousers in your hand luggage, gentlemen?
Can't think I do.
No. But anyway, he later had to throw the designer trousers away as he claims that there were no clothes washing facilities available at his destination. I'm sure Jamaica does have the ability to wash people's clothes.
There's an ocean.
But anyway, yeah, quite well. The passengers also had to move seats away from his wife, and said he was disappointed not to sit with her on the transatlantic flight. BA have apologised to Vickery and given him 40,000 air miles in compensation. Vickery has argued it's not sufficient after the incident tarnished his £5,000 holiday. However, the Centre for Effective Dispute Resolution, the CEDR, has dismissed the claim. A BA spokesman told The Express, "We apologise to Mr. Vickery, moved him to another seat and offered him and his wife enough Avios for an upgrade to business class the next time they fly with us." The independent dispute adjudicator found that we acted fairly and reasonably in this case and dismissed the claim against us. This is not the first time that plane passengers have been disgusted to find bodily fluids on their seat. Well, I should be flying with the fine British Airways next Thursday, and I'm going to have a good old sniff around before I sit down.
What do you reckon, Armando, to this?
This is right with the quick turnarounds that they're trying to do with these airplanes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if BA, you may know, but does BA employ their own cleaning crews?
Well, of course, a lot of these companies these days, they've got third-party cleaning contractors, haven't they? They wouldn't be, I doubt they would be BA employees, so they use the third-party contract companies wherever they're based.
Right. So aside from maybe their own, personal thoughts on the whole thing, if they're getting pressure from their management, it's a third party to clean the airplanes in 30 minutes, then they may not take all the time.
Although a BA flight to Jamaica, that's going to be quite a reasonable turnaround time, you would have thought, wouldn't you? So I'm surprised that somebody missed that. It almost sounds like it was a dirty protest, possibly.
Oh, dear. Actually, on the subject of silly jokes, I noticed Richard King had a very amusing joke here. He's saying that wet lease aircraft was his little joke, a bit appalling. And the main man, Micah, the legend that is, he's got a couple of terrible ones as well. I could understand it if they were flying on Wizz Airlines. I think that's a little bit of a punch below the weight. And he also said, once again, BA, you're in trouble.
Oh.
And Mariana points out quite rightly that Captain Al should be in the chat room, really, shouldn't he? Because I'm sure he would offer a considerable comment to that.
Actually, can I just say, Nev, you are the king of puns. I thought you'd be the one for all this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't read out. I can't read out Pilot Pip's one in the chat room, actually. That's a step too far, but...
Unlike Pip? God, blame.
Yeah, indeed. So Micah is on a roll here. This puts BA on my fecal roster. That's always nice.
We can carry on all night here.
Yeah, like I say, Mariana has a good point. Captain now should be in the chat room today. I think that would have helped.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Armando, next story.
All right, next one from Wired.com. Turkish Airlines jet flew 800 miles out of its way and landed on time. See, most of the time, passengers on Turkish Airlines Flight 800 flying from Panama City to Istanbul can look down on Puerto Rico just after takeoff, then the blue of the Atlantic Ocean for a few hours, then southern France and northern Italy before arcing south over Greece and touching down. But those who made the trip on Sunday got a view of a very different set of locales. Cuba, then the east coast of the United States, the southern tips of Greenland and Norway, finally reaching the Turkish city by way of Poland and Romania. Compared to the great circle distance between the two airports, meaning the shortest path of 6,739 miles, Flight 800 travels 7,553 miles, according to aviation tracking site Flight Radar 24. That is an extra 814 miles for public math. And while it takes 2.5 hours to fly the same distance from New York City to Jacksonville, Florida, the Turkish Airlines Airbus A330 took just 27 minutes longer than average, landing just 11 minutes after its scheduled arrival time. By airline standards, that counts as officially on time. Let's see. From an air traffic control perspective, it's not unusual, said Sid McGurk, chair of the Department of Applied Aviation Sciences at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, especially not once you look at the weather conditions at the time, when the Airbus A330 was getting ready to unglue from the tarmac in Panama. The jet stream over the Labrador Sea was blowing something fierce as the plane tracked north along the eastern seaboard. It was flying around 540 miles per hour, its standard cruising speed. When it caught the wind, however, its speed surged, peaking at 700 miles per hour without burning any more jet fuel than usual. It kind of goes on. They talk about, I think that we talked about it, the Norwegian 787 that set a speed record for, they had a 202 mile per hour tailwind. I think it got somewhere in the 700s, high 700s. But there's a website actually called windy.com, which I actually use a lot for flight planning. And it's almost mesmerizing because you can see exactly what these folks are talking about, where you can set it to 30,000 feet or 40,000 feet. You can set it to any altitude and watch the wind, and it's an animated animation of the wind, and you can really see how airlines would use that to plan their flights. And I know I have a good friend that was trying to ferry over. I think it was not a Centurion, maybe a Cessna 414 or something like that, from Las Vegas all the way to Italy. And I had pointed them towards windy.com because it's just a quick visual of how you could get across the ocean coming that way and take advantage of those winds at different flight levels. So I think it's pretty cool that they would put this out there. I think it probably happens about 30 times a day for those ETOPS flights and those dispatchers at the airlines. But either way, pretty cool that they put this out there in the media.
So moving on to the next story then, and this one is on the, just getting my camera, there we go. This is on the foxnewslive.com website, this one. And this is for those of you who may have a spare $26,000 lying around somewhere under a sofa, pillow or somewhere. And like Matt has, he's got, we've already, me and Armando have found your 26 grand hiding under your pillow, Matt. So a luxury airline is hosting a $26,000 trip from Las Vegas to Tokyo to celebrate New Year's Eve twice. A New Year's Eve countdown can be so exciting, but then it's 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year, and it's all over. Don't you ever wish you could celebrate that magical moment just one more time before officially starting the new year? Well, if you're in the right spot, you actually can. Crystal Air Cruises, a luxury airline, is offering an exclusive New Year's Eve package called the New Year Double Countdown celebration for revelers who want to have their midnight kiss twice. So the story goes, it's back the package, which runs between December the 29th this year and January the 4th next year, will allow guests to enjoy the New Year's Eve twice in 2 cities on opposite sides of the world. In order to do this, passengers will fly from Tokyo to Las Vegas. This flight crosses the international date line, which essentially turns back time by 24 hours. Each package will cost $26,000 per person, but it also comes with a ton of luxury perks. At the beginning of the trip, guests will stay at the Hilton Tokyo Adabia at the luxury hotel. They can enjoy an exclusive dinner party, fireworks over the Tokyo Disneyland, watch sumo wrestling, and of course enjoy the hotel's amenities and explore the city. Then, once the New Year celebration in Tokyo has ended, guests will then fly to Las Vegas, where it will be New Year's Eve again, thanks to the new time zone. In Vegas, guests can party at the Omnia nightclub New Year's Eve party at Caesar's Palace, featuring DJ Calvin Harris. Whoop, whoop. They can also take advantage of all the entertainment and nightlife Las Vegas has to offer at their leisure. I know I'd love Las Vegas. And if you're worried about being too tired from flying to partake in the worldwide fun, don't be. You should have no issues in napping in the air, because Crystal Sky Aircraft, a massive Boeing 777, has 180-degree lie-flat beds and noise-cancelling headphones, plus the all-important Wi-Fi, in-flight bar and in-flight chef, and more to keep you rested and entertained. So if you want to have a go at this and spend $26,000, take yourselves over to the Crystal Air Cruises website where you can find out more information. Now, Nev, I'm guessing this would be up there on the old list, no?
Oh, not really. I'm just not a big fan of New Year's Eve anyway, and the prospect of doing it twice would just, let alone all the jet lag that goes with it. I just, not for me, I have to say.
Carlos, I'm thinking how. I mean, this would be quite cool for you, of course, because obviously, New Year's Eve is quite a lucrative time of year for you. The ability to be able to do 2 New Year's Eve parties, surely that's some kind of wet dream for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we were talking about this the other day. Me and Gemma are just saying that I think I've worked the last 4 or 5 New Year's Eves. It would be nice to have a year off, I think, this year, and not have to go and entertain everyone else.
Are you currently free and available on New Year's Eve?
I am. I'm free and available New Year's Eve. It's
goodness.
amazing. I know. It's going to be really weird this year. Although if someone does come up to me in a few days' time and says, "Can I book you for New Year's Eve?" And I quote them the very small fee, I would have to probably take it. I think. Yeah.
Indeed.
More flying. Armando, quickly, what do you reckon?
Well, I think if I had $1.5 billion or $614 million after taxes, I think the lottery was in the U.S. Yeah, then sure, I'd fly a 777. Across the ocean.
Because that was that big lottery win.
If I had 26 grand to just spend, then sure.
Yeah.
The airplane is beautiful. This 777-200 that they've kitted out and just complete corporate interior is pretty nice.
So moving on to the next story then, Matt. And
yes.
This one is this one's on the Outlook India website.
Yes, indeed. Or the Outlook Traveller is actually the name or the story, the publication that it's in. As you say, based in India, as Carlos said. And the headline is, "The Shazam of travel is here. You can now upload a screenshot and book tickets to Europe using Instagram."
Okay.
Right then. So if you spend the better part of your day scrolling through your Instagram feed and tapping away on people's stories, here's a chance to put that to good use. Soon you'll be able to use an Instagram screenshot as a way to book tickets to fly out to Europe. EasyJet, a low-cost airline true to its name, has launched a quick and easy-to-use feature called Look and Book, which allows you to upload an Instagram screen grab of a place that looks appealing and will lead you on
Malta.
to book tickets with just a tap. This feature is perfect for those who are always on the go and are in favour of impromptu plans. The app uses Instagram's geotagging feature coupled with image recognition software which auto-completes information in the booking fields. Although an airline recommends using Instagram shots for best results, it may work with existing pictures from your iPhone's library as well. This new feature is backed by this new feature is backed by Instagram envy that many of us face while checking our friends' never-ending exotic holidays. The app seeks to reduce the number of steps involved, right from looking at a picture to figuring out where it was taken, Googling the location to find the nearest airport, and then checking an airline's website for ticket prices. All this can be shortened by a seamless process used by Look and Book. This is about behavior change, says the creators. Instagram has emerged as an incredibly powerful force in the world of travel. They hope to attract new customers by adding an air of thrill to a usually tedious process for an Instagram-inspired holiday. They further add that the feature will assist people in exploring Europe by opening up lesser-known locations. Look and Book currently only supports iOS. Oh dear, Carlos. And the route is limited to destinations in Europe only. But I suspect that's more because the majority of EasyJet's routes are into and out of Europe, aren't they? Or am I perhaps
yeah.
right?
Yeah, weren't we just talking about privacy concerns in airlines? So that's exactly what I want as an airline looking into my Instagram and my geotagging on my iPhone to book my
absolutely.
ticket.
Any old excuse.
Surely
I
there's
mean,
nothing can go
the
wrong.
bots, because bots seems a big thing, doesn't it? I know Skype uses bots, and what's the other one that uses it? I know like Facebook Messenger and things. You can now have these robots, if you like, that automatically reply to you, and you can answer it questions and to order things like, I think, is it Domino's Pizza? I think you can actually order a pizza using just an app. Just using your Facebook Messenger app and things. So I suppose it's just an extension of that. But I mean, I don't know. It seems, is it really much quicker than just sitting down and sort of saying, I want, especially, I suppose for the majority of people who are listening to this program, I mean, you probably already know the airport code of the one that you want to go to when you're looking for a destination.
Yeah.
You know,
Malta.
so
Lima,
I don't know
Mike
if
Lima.
for people
Malta.
who are listening to this program, it would necessarily speed things up. But I mean, I like the tech. I like the idea behind it, and I'm a big fan of AI and sort of working out, you know, like the geotagging thing. I kind of find interesting. I mean, I suppose they only have access to the geotagging information that's on the photograph that you've uploaded. To be fair, Armando, I don't think they'd be trawling through your phone's history, if you like. I think it'd only be the image that you uploaded to it that they would have access to.
Yeah. I think Neil in the chat room says, sums it up. Do we really need a thrill from booking plane tickets?
Not really, no, to be fair. We could just, you know, look forward to the holiday, really.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get excited next Friday when I'm printing out Gemma's boarding passes for her flight to Dubai, and I'm not even going.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair
It's
enough.
still exciting. Anyway, moving on to the next story, and Nev, it's another BA story.
It is, and so often we hear on other aviation podcasts about emotional support animals, and this is no exception, because on The Independent it says that a passenger was removed from a British Airways flight after it was discovered she'd attempted to smuggle a cat on board, claiming it was an emotional support animal. An unnamed woman was catching flight BA 1477 from Glasgow to London Heathrow on the 21st of October when crew found the feline stowed in her luggage. The cat, stowed in a box inside the passenger's hand luggage, was only revealed because the woman was sitting on an emergency exit row and she was told she'd have to put her bag in the overhead locker. The traveller was reportedly American, so US airlines allow certain emotional passengers in the cabin free of charge. However, UK airlines only allow recognised assistance dogs, for example, guide dogs, into the cabin. A BA spokesman told The Independent cats cannot travel in the cabin, but recognised assistance dogs are always very welcome and travel completely free of charge alongside their owners on board. Other animals will need to travel in the hold, but will be just as comfortable in a carefully controlled environment. The transportation of pets is handled by a sister company, IAG Cargo. They have decades of experience flying animals and will look after our customers' pets as if they are their own. It's the latest in a long line of incidents involving emotional support animals, which are frequently used by nervous flyers in the US. Earlier this month, a passenger was removed from a flight when she turned up with an emotional support squirrel. Frontier Airlines, a US airline based in Denver, asked Orlando police to escort the passenger and the rodent off the aircraft when she refused to disembark. And this is my favourite one. The Independent also reported on a United Airlines passenger who tried to board a flight to Los Angeles with an emotional support peacock called Dexter. Earlier this year, she reportedly offered to buy the bird a ticket, but was refused because he did not meet the size and weight guidelines. You couldn't make this stuff up, could you? Oh, what a laugh!
Oh, this whole emotional support thing, I think it's just gone a bit off the rails. I do believe.
Can you imagine if you tried to take Poppycat onto an aeroplane, though, Carlos?
I'll tell you what, I'd give it. I mean, she travels in the van with me.
Yeah,
you know,
but not in a
sitting on the seat.
cage.
No, she sits on the seat with me. But she would not. I mean, you know what she's like, Matt. She hates other humans.
She
apart
does,
from-
yes.
Yeah,
She's
so it probably wouldn't
literally
go down well.
nothing's me, certainly, when I pop in.
But no, this whole emotional support thing, I think, is it just goes from one extreme to another. Armando, you're well aware of the emotional support.
I am, yeah. I don't know that I have much to add to the emotional support animal thing other than Dexter is a cool name for a peacock.
Oh, no.
Nev, you going to take your cats along with you? Or?
No, I don't think BA would appreciate me taking them to Gibraltar next week. They might interfere with the macaque monkeys and things like that when I get there. But no, I think that there's. I think that's the big difference, isn't it? You know, there's pretty strict rules about what you can and what you can't take on aircraft, but people do just disregard it completely. And but yeah, the peacock one was particularly funny, I thought.
It's very odd, isn't it? It's just so bizarre.
I know, but it makes great stories, as Nev found out.
Does it, though?
So, Armando, the next story. And if you don't get this story right, Armando, I'm going to slap you around the face with my mobile phone.
The good thing is nobody will ever know that if I get it right or not. From the Daily Mail, well, I just told you where it's from. So from the dailymail.co.uk, a man has been given a 5-day detention after smacking an airline staff member across the face with his mobile phone in East China. The passenger was upset that his flight had been canceled the night before and took it out on the airline employee the next day at the airport in Qingdao in Shandong province. The man, surnamed Wu, was or has been blacklisted by the Chinese airline, which the police have not named. Let's see. The incident occurred on July 29th, but oh my gosh, I am murdering this story. Surveillance footage of the man's actions emerged this week, sparking online discussions. The Nanjing-bound flight was canceled due to adverse weather conditions, according to the newspaper. The airline arranged accommodation for Wu's family for the night, offered 400 yuan, about 44 pounds, as compensation. The company has also arranged for Wu to board the same flight on the next day. However, when Wu returned to the airport the next morning and asked to board an earlier flight, the airline employee said all the morning flights were full. During the discussion at the counter, Wu is filmed pointing his finger at the staff member angrily before suddenly smacking his face with his iPhone. Police... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's not iPhone.
Yeah, the police officers were alerted to the assault. They apprehended the man after checking the surveillance footage. Let's see. Internet users were outraged by the man's actions, saying that he deserved a heavier penalty. This person should be blacklisted from all airlines in the country. It goes on to...
Do you remember, Matt and Nev, and I don't think you'd have probably heard of it, Armando, there used to be a program called Airline. It used to be on in the UK here.
I did used to watch it, actually.
Yeah, focused on EasyJet in the UK. And used to have the cameras kind of rolling at the check-in desks and stuff, and they used to have these passengers come in and, I want to get on this flight, but they've missed it by 3 years, and they'd kind of go absolutely mental at the staff and really, really just.
It's awful. And I think the other thing is I've noticed, in fact, I actually had a friend of mine, she used to work on the British Airways check-in desk at Terminal 1 at Heathrow when BA flew out of there. And she was telling me years ago the amount of abuse that the boys and girls have to take on the desk was horrific. This is all before online check-in, all the rest of it. So that was the only way to check in. Was to go up to the desk, and it was pretty horrific. And I know we all get concerned and fed up sometimes with delays and cancellations, but some of the abuse that the staff used to take was horrific, I have to say.
I know, obviously, we've had a spate, especially this summer just gone with Ryanair, isn't it? There's been a spate of continuous delays and all that kind of thing. And as we all know, we've got sort of several friends who've worked for Ryanair during said period. And I mean, some of the horror stories that I know that, certainly you, me, Carlos and Nev, we've heard from people who work there. I mean, some of the stories that us humans can be really horrible people sometimes, can't we? and we just don't. I know we're tired and we're upset and all that kind of thing because of this awful thing that's happening, and I'm the first to admit that sometimes this stupid little thing becomes the only thing that my brain can focus on, because and you get all worked up and upset about the most ridiculous thing. But we do all need to sort of sit back a bit really and just sort of think, why are we being horrible to this person? It's a procedure. They're just doing what they can.
Not forgetting as well, this is what they invent insurance for, holiday insurance. It's all bad being delayed, having your flight cancelled, or you're having an issue at an airport so you can't fly. But that's why they invented something called insurance. So when things like this happen, you're covered. You have that EU directive thing that kind of works after 3 hours. I think it is now 3 or 4 hours after a delay. It kicks in, and you get compensation for this and this, that, and the other. And it's no excuse to. I think
the only thing I would say against that, Carlos, is insurance companies are notoriously good at wriggling out of claims. If there's one small tiny checkbox that hasn't been filled in or something like that, you'd be, that's
that dodgy company you use, Matt. Dodgett and Scarpa.
That's the one. Yeah. It's my favourite kind. But that's kind of the thing. The point I'm making is, as I say, I know we all get upset and angry, especially if but and again, the community to which I suppose that are listening to what we're doing this evening, they tend to be at the airport in good time. They're not arriving sort of 5 minutes before check-in time, therefore, allowing plenty of time for road delays and all that kind of thing. It's just, I don't know, we just need to be nicer to each other, don't we?
What do you reckon, Armando?
Yeah, I have sort of two things to say about this. I used to work, I think I told you guys, I used to work on the ramp at defunct airline, Atlantic Coast Airlines, that became Independence Airlines. And so working ramp operations, one unique thing is, so these young folks and working the counters, like Nev was saying, they are subject to so much abuse. And that I worked in Washington D.C. at Dulles Airport, and there would be a snowstorm in Chicago. The flight wouldn't go, and the gate agents would just be verbally abused. And what I got to see on the, what passengers don't see from the front, from the terminal and the counter side, is those folks would badge out. In my airline, we used to walk out to the airplanes. There was no jetways. But they used to badge out, go outside, and cry. They would literally go behind where the customers couldn't see them and cry because somebody would just yell at them. Now, gate agents have pretty thick skin, but they're still humans. So that's the first commentary. And the second one is, well, it's all perspective, isn't it, right? So if you think back to the days of DC-4s and DC-6s and Constellations, it used to take 2 to 3 days to get from London to Australia or Washington, D.C. to Colombia, right? So, I mean, your delay could be a day and you're on the same airplane. So it's all perspective. Just because your flight is delayed a couple hours, that's no reason to probably abuse anybody.
I agreed. I couldn't agree more. That's well said.
So the next story is on the Business Traveller website, and interesting story, this one.
It is, yeah. So this is...
The headline is Hate the Middle Seat. This is the perfect airline for you. South American airline GOL, G-O-L, has solved the middle seat dilemma by eliminating it altogether on some flights. GOL, Brazil's largest airline, is launching a new non-stop service from Fortaleza and Brasilia to Miami and Orlando in November 2018. To ease the stress of the long 8-hour flight, it's announced that the airline would eliminate some middle seats in their Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets. These jets are built with 3 seats on either side of the centre aisle, but GOL will cover the middle seats in its premium economy section with a tabletop for share for use by travellers. Of course, that class of service is priced at roughly twice that of a normal standard economy ticket, so if you opt for the cheap ticket, you could still end up in a middle seat. GOL's premium economy seats are roomier too, with 34 inches of seat pitch compared to 31 inches in standard economy class seating. Airline officials are hoping that the added room and subtracted neighbours will convince more travellers to shoulder the extra cost and help offset rising operational costs due to increased prices for jet fuel. So they're not actually ripping the middle seat out. They're kind of just turning the middle seat into a
table.
A table, yeah. Which I think a lot of I know Air Malta do that on their A320s for the business class section. The seats are slightly larger, but the centre seat or middle seat has a table rather.
The BA do that on their club. Europe services as well, and I had a passenger who was trying to sit next to me the other week when the three seats were configured as two. Was trying to sit in the middle seat, and there was no way that he was going to fit in there in a month of days.
No, I can imagine. I must admit, I've on the odd Ryanair flight that I've done, and if I've been lucky enough not to have somebody sort of sat like in the middle seat, myself and whoever I've flown with, either mum or whatever, we've quite often used the middle seat, if it's been spare, as essentially an unofficial table to put all our crap, you know.
I think Pilot Pip in the chat room has a great observation, which is 2 seats at twice the price equals 4 seats, which is fairly clever.
Yes, very good. Yeah, it's a sneaky way of putting the price up without anyone realising.
So, Matt, while you're there, the next
indeed,
story
yes. So this is on CNN Travel. It's the business traveller section, and the headline is 16 new airports and terminals we can't wait to fly into. It's with more people flying than ever. Cities around the world are building new airports and upgrading old terminals to create facilities capable of handling tens of millions of passengers. The results are modern, stylish architectural statements that banish the dark, crowded travel spaces of the past. Here are 16 of the most exciting airports under construction or redevelopment. So I seem to remember did we mention Istanbul a few weeks back? I seem to recall.
Yes.
Indeed. So Turkey has great ambitions to become a new meeting point between East and West. Its national carrier, Turkish Airlines, already flies to more countries than any other airline globally. And with the I can't say that word, I can't really understand it, but it's with the appropriately named Istanbul airport opening soon, the country now has a gateway to be proud of. Replacing the older, darker airport, it is a mega hub that will eventually be capable of handling 150 million passengers per year, perhaps even rivaling Dubai in terms of connecting travellers. The airport's official opening is scheduled for October the 29th, so that's only a couple of days away, isn't it? But with the latest report saying it won't be fully operational until the end of 2018. So I'm going to have is it Al Maktoum International Airport in Dubai? Already open and handling cargo plus a small selection of passenger flights. Al Maktoum International Airport, southwest of downtown Dubai, is likely to be one day one of the largest and busiest in the world, if plans are to be believed. Al Maktoum, commonly known as Dubai World Central, will one day have 5 runways, 3 terminals, and be home to the huge fleets of super jumbos operated by Emirates. It will boast shorter walking distances for passengers and a high-speed rail link to the centre of Dubai. Next up, it's Singapore Changhai Airport, the world's favourite airport, an Asian mega hub. Singapore Changhai is eagerly working towards opening its new Jewel and Terminal 5. The Jewel is an impressive glass multi-use area connecting the existing terminals and introducing shopping, eating and entertainment facilities for passengers and visitors to use. It will feature the world's tallest indoor waterfall and is set to open in 2019. Terminal 5 will open to the east of the current terminals in the mid-2020s with a capacity of 50 million annual passengers. LaGuardia Airport in New York, coming not a minute too soon. This is the complete revamp and rebuild of the terminals and taxiways at New York's crowded LaGuardia Airport to create one unified terminal structure with more gates and more space, capable of handling the thousands of daily passengers. The old, low ceilings and cramped corridors in a confusing mix of different terminals will make way for light, airy spaces with plenty of windows and new amenities. Other improvements include new parking facilities, taxiways, and a vital link to the New New York City Metro. That will be popular, I think, actually. Beijing Daxing International Airport. Another new airport for 2019 is Daxing International, which also has ambitions to become the largest and busiest in the world. It will feature one of the largest passenger terminals in the world, which simultaneously reduces the amount of walk time passengers need to undertake compared to similar hubs. It will soon become home to China Eastern Airlines and China Southern Airlines, which will move from the existing Beijing Capital Airport. With a high-speed rail link connection to the cities and new motorway network, it has been built with the future in mind, with an eventual space for 100 million passengers per year and 7 runways as China's aviation industry continues to grow. I'm just going to do one more of these because, as I say, there's like 16 there, and the link to this story will be in the show notes, so you'll be able to have a look at the entire list. So there's some great photos in there as well. But Western Sydney Airport, which is where I'll end this story, with Sydney's existing Kingsford Smith Airport restricted by its waterfront location and nighttime curfews to keep the neighbours happy, a new airport has been in the planning for quite a while. Located at the very Australian-sounding Badgerys Creek, construction recently started on Western Sydney Airport, which is 27 miles from the city and is being planned to allow growth and offer relief to the existing airport. It is scheduled to open in 2026.
Actually, Matt, I was going to put the picture on the screen just now of one of the most fantastic-looking airports on one of those pictures there.
Yep.
I mean,
Which one's that?
just take a look at that. That is really amazing. What do you think of that, guys?
Which one? Sorry, I haven't got the pictures here.
Carlisle Lake District Airport.
Yes, I'm going to have a go at that, I think, next year when they open that. And perhaps we could do a bit of a review or something like that, or do some filming up there. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, wow, yeah. So Britain's newest regional airport has had a somewhat rocky start so far, owned and operated by the Stobart Group. So this is the people that own Southend, isn't it?
Yes.
This northwest gateway to on the edge of the Lake District National Park was a sleepy general aviation field until a new terminal was built and flights announced to Belfast, Dublin and London. Delays in opening due to staff training issues have somewhat dampened the initial optimism and goodwill, but come 2019, locals and tourists alike will have the option of flying in and out of the region. Well, it's obviously gone quite well. I mean, certainly, because you've actually flown out of Southend, haven't you, Carlos?
Yes, I have. It's a very nice airport indeed.
Yeah.
Great services, easy to get parked. The car park is right next to the terminal building. Easy to get in, check in. Check-in area could be slightly bigger, but there's only a few flights going in and out of there a day. But very swift and easy process indeed, and I shall definitely be flying from Southend Airport again.
I'll tell you what, this Carlisle Lake District Airport, if they can make the prices right between London and Carlisle, I mean, that's going to be a big thing, I think, isn't it?
I'm going to pause just a second there, Matt, because we had a email whilst we've been doing the show.
Yeah, I know what we're going to do here.
From Richard King.
I don't know if that helps.
And we will put the actual picture on there. There we go. Now, apparently Richard King has said that his wife keeps telling him that both him and Matt look very much alike. It's on the screen now. I know Matt's got it on the screen, but we've got the picture on the feed there for those of you who are in the YouTube world. So if we just go, Matt, if you just look at the camera, put your phone down, and we'll just, here we go, we'll scroll between the two. There's Matt, and there's Richard, and there's Matt, and there's Richard, and there's Rich. No, that's Rich. No, that's Matt. And there's Matt. No, Richard.
This should sound great on the audio download.
For those of you watching the audio download, very sorry, but you need to take yourselves over to.
I've often
YouTube.
Said that I've got a great face for radio, so there we are.
We'll just wait to see what the guys in the YouTube.
It's kind of Richard I feel sorry for in this particular scenario. It's just like.
Oh dear. Anyway, moving swiftly on then to the next story, Nev.
Richard Adams, there's twins in the room. Yeah.
Well, this is on the Air Transport World website, and it says that British Airways is going to make a multi-million pound investment in staff training at its Heathrow Airport hub 10 months after a light snowfall there brought chaos to its services. The breakdown led to the stranding of thousands of passengers, with some complaining of a lack of assistance from BA staff, just a few days after CEO Alex Cruz told an aviation club luncheon in London that the difference between BA and low-cost carriers was that the national carriers staff would bust a gut to fix passengers' problems when things go wrong. That was maybe the problem. But the new training initiative will start with the airline's customer service hosts at its flagship home, Heathrow's Terminal 5. BA hosts have traditionally helped customers with one aspect of their journey, the airline said in a statement. As part of a new approach between now and next summer, a huge training operation will get underway to enable every host to help customers across a range of different areas, from ticketing to rebooking, changing reservations, finding delayed luggage, or providing up-to-date flight information. Hosts will use iPads loaded with a number of specialist apps and will walk the terminal floor, reaching out to customers rather than waiting for them to visit desks. Now, BA's COO, Klaus Gersch, added, "This will change the service that we deliver at Heathrow, but at its heart, it's a really simple idea. It's about trusting our people and empowering them, giving them everything they need to provide the very best service to our customers. We're encouraging our hosts to treat customers as they would their own family and to own and resolve issues on the spot. It's this exceptional customer service that will set us apart from the other airlines." The new approach is expected to be extended across Heathrow to empower all BA staff, regardless of where they work. Well, I've certainly seen a bit more of this recently, certainly at Terminal 5 when I was there the other day, and yeah, good on them. I think it's if they don't have to keep referring things upwards all the time and they're able to make fairly sensible decisions on their own, that will be a lot of help. I think.
Yeah, we appear to have a slight audio issue there, Nev. Your mic seems to have gone a bit muffled, Matt. I don't know whether you...
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yes, I don't know quite what happened there. I thought it was my end, so I didn't say anything because I'm on a remote connection. So
You're still clear, Matt. Nev, yeah, you've gone very, very, very muffled all of a sudden.
Oh, I don't know why that is. Okay.
You're back.
Oh, okay.
You're back.
Yeah, we don't know quite what happened there. Oh well, never mind. We'll just gloss over that and move on. Yeah.
I think airlines should account for this in their revamping schemes as they're doing either new liveries, new paint schemes, new uniforms. We did a couple stories in the last couple months about airlines spending a lot of money on their image. I think good, successful companies also take a good amount of money and invest in their people. So I think if they're doing customer service training and just good old general, hey, here's the image of the airline, I think it can only benefit them.
We do. We have stories, don't we, Nev, all the time about BA and that, and kind of the white. We say that they've slipped a little bit in over the last few years and that. Do you think there is much room for improvement with BA?
The thing is that we have created this situation ourselves because we now turn up at the airport so much earlier because of all the security and all the rest of it, that the main concourse gets very crowded very quickly. Unless you're doing hand luggage only and you're going straight through security, you end up with a lot of people there. Now, some of which might be flying once a week, once a month, that kind of thing. Other people may be flying once every couple of years or every 3 years, so they don't know where to go. So I think if you have got people walking the floor, as it were, then you've got a much better chance of giving them a better level of service rather than a big queue at the customer information counter, that kind of thing. So it's got to be a good thing as long as they are empowered to make those decisions themselves, because if they have to spend all their time talking to other people or getting authority, then that kind of defeats the object somewhat, doesn't it?
So Armando, the next story is all yours.
Okay, I think for our last story, this is from foxnews.com. It's American Eagle flight strikes and kills a deer during takeoff at a Pennsylvania airport. They start with, oh dear. An American Eagle flight scheduled to leave for Philadelphia on Wednesday morning was forced to abort takeoff after striking and killing a buck on the runway. The 50-seat twin-engine jet, which is, I don't believe it was that one. I think it was a CRJ. Was attempting to take off from Williamsport Regional Airport in Montoursville, Pennsylvania, shortly after 6 a.m. when the aircraft's landing gear hit the deer. The airport's executive director, Thomas J. Hart, confirmed to Penn Live. After returning to the gate, passengers were rebooked on other airlines, a representative for American Airlines told Fox News. The American Eagle flight was being operated by Piedmont Airlines, a subsidiary of American Airlines. The Hart told Penn Live that the deer likely scaled a perimeter fence, though such occurrences are rare. The plane suffered minimal damage and was undergoing inspection. Williamsport Regional Airport is actually probably one of the most beautiful settings on the east coast of America. Williamsport is the home of Lycoming engines, so Lycoming aircraft engines. And where the airport sits, it's just next to the Susquehanna River. And it's just on the south side of the runway, it's just all wooded area with the river right there. And there's it's a beautiful valley, beautiful setting, but you could see that there's probably a lot of wildlife. And I think this is probably more common than most people think. Sure, deer striking an aircraft is going to cause some damage, but we see it in general aviation probably a little bit more often. I think our friends down in Australia or any of those remote airstrips out there are probably hearing a lot of stories about wildlife and aircraft coming together.
It's a shame, isn't it, Matt? It's a dear shame when you hear about these incidents. No?
Come on, you just have to be nicer. Come on, this is Bambi we're talking about here, you know.
Yeah, but someone may have had a good feed that night. You know? just putting it out there.
I'm gonna.
Before anyone else says it in the chat room, come on, because you know what the chat room are like.
Venison is lovely. I just prefer it to have been more humanely killed.
Actually, Neil Lamorn in the chat room says eagle kills deer. Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I like what he's done there. I like it. Yeah.
So anyway, that is where we are going to bring the commercial news segment to a close. So Nev, we're going to hand things over to you to introduce the next amazing segment for the show.
It is quite amazing, actually. And could I just thank everybody that came along to Heathrow this week on Monday. We had a fantastic time there, and a lot of people turned up, which was brilliant. I think we got to talk to everyone except one of the chaps there, and I'll tell you about that later on. But no, we really, really enjoyed it. So thank you very much indeed for coming along for what was a great meetup. So let's have a look at the video. Well, good morning from a very sunny Heathrow on Monday morning, and it's perfect weather actually, could not be better, just the job. And I've got my chums with me. We've got Phil Davis here.
Hi, Nev.
And we've got Neil Lamborn.
Hi, Nev.
Neil, how far have you come today?
About 2 hours, 90 miles.
What was the traffic like?
Heavy, but not too bad actually, not too bad for getting down to here.
Yeah, typical Monday morning rush hour, but of course Phil has had a much farther distance to come, haven't you?
Yeah, just a little bit. Only 205 miles, not too bad. 3 hour trip, so
205 miles.
So I avoided the traffic by leaving at 3 o'clock this morning.
Oh. How do you manage that? Is that because of your shift work?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. Just seem to be able to do long days, which is helpful when you got to come all the way up here and go all the way back home in the same day. But
yeah, certainly.
Yeah,
well, we're looking forward for a good day spotting today. I think we're going to see Captain Nick, Dave Willis, and Pilot Pip is going to come along, and maybe one or two others as well. So look forward to it. What's been on the early arrivals list so far, Phil, today?
I was in the Oman Dreamliner, was quite good. That was all right. I managed to see all 4 of the A320 Neos for British Airways that I needed. So I've only seen 1, and there's 4 extras. They've all been in already.
Nice.
So,
any A350s this morning at all?
Not that I've noticed. There's a couple gone over. There's three Lufthansa's gone over. So that was quite good. And there was a couple of Air France A380s and a Dreamliner as well, which was quite good. So hopefully need all of those. So.
Yeah, nice one. Do you have the same obsession as Phil has, Neil, for writing down all the reg?
I only do photos, I don't do numbers. The only time I've ever chased numbers was when I realised I only had a couple of BMI babies missing before they went out of business. And I chased the last one for about 5 or 6 weeks and then saw it 3 times in the same day. So this is actually the first time I've been down here when they've been on the 09s. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully we'll get some nice shots when the sun comes around a little bit further.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, let's see what we can do, and we'll catch up with you shortly. Well, morning, Graham. How are you?
Morning, Nev. Good to see you again. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for coming. Are you working today, or are you off?
I am 2 till 10 up in the tower, day 3 of 6 today.
Yeah. How's the training going?
It's going well. Simulator course last month, and then back up in the tower now, moving the real aeroplanes around with someone watching me, trying not to mess it up.
Has it been more challenging than you expected, would you say?
I never expected Heathrow to be an easy place, let's put it that way. It has and it hasn't. A lot of it comes reasonably naturally after the training I've had back at the Air Traffic Control College, but at the same time it's a lot more complex than having a Cessna in the circuit and one coming down final.
Are you able to watch the other guys doing it as well to help you complete the picture?
Yeah, so I've spent 4 months
Yes.
doing familiarisation, mainly watching some of the experienced controllers upstairs doing their stuff and making it work. So got a lot of useful tips from that, and just trying to find all the good ones and find my own way.
How long will it be before you're fully qualified, do you think?
By the end of next year, we're hoping. We're looking at maybe September, October, but we'll see.
Brilliant. Well, it's a great day here today, and much nicer than it was yesterday. It's a bit of a pea super, wasn't it, yesterday?
It was a bit, yeah. It crept in yesterday morning. We watched it crawl down the runways, and then it caused a bit of delays and a lot of pilots asking why they were sitting around after it had cleared out. But we got it back.
How much problem does that give you when you've got sort of changeable weather conditions like that?
It's not easy. We just try our best to keep the delay down. The inbound delay was quite high, so we were keen to try and keep stuff flowing in rather than put a lot of spacing on for low visibility. And it was just about working with clear down the west end of the airfield where we were landing. And then it wasn't long that we were in low visibility, and then the sun came up and we came back out and got stuff moving again as quick as we could.
Great. Well, thanks for coming today, and great to speak to you again.
Yeah, good to see you for a few hours, and you can watch me make a mess later.
Can't wait. Well, hello, Pip. Morning to you.
Morning, good morning, good morning. A lovely day. Look at this, a cloud in the sky. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? So, are you flying this week at all?
No, I just finished work yesterday, so I got 5 days off. Spent all week looking at aeroplanes, and I thought, what should I do on my days off? I know, I'll come to Heathrow and look at some planes, which is, I guess, the object of the game today. But yeah, nice to be here, nice to see everyone.
Yeah, nice turnout today, actually, and just coming up to lunchtime too, which is an important part of the day.
I had heard the magic L word, and I don't need to be asked twice. So yeah, I thought I'd dash down and get some lunch. So looking forward to that. But no, I only just arrived. Nick, as you can see, just behind me has just turned up as well. A number of other chaps here. And yeah, we're all here to look at Heathrow, look at aeroplanes.
How was your trip to the US?
Oh, it's a few weeks ago now. Yes, well, I've got one of my mementos here, the big C cap. We're still debating as to whether the C stands for crew, captain, or something unbroadcastable. But no, it was very nice actually. Thank you. A nice week in Columbus, and then a few bonus days in Chicago, having fun, seeing Steph, and generally having a nice time. So yeah, it was good. Very nice.
Great stuff. Good to see you again.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So, morning.
Good morning to you all, and especially to you, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Well, it's all right. I needed that damn book. I didn't have much chance, since it appears that it's cheaper for me to drive here than it is for you to stick in the post.
It is, isn't it? Anyway, thanks for coming, Nick. So we've seen a couple of go-arounds this morning already.
Well, all I can say is it's awful weather, isn't it? So you can understand why these poor people were having a problem, although Graham says it's Alpha 9 that's the problem. So that's a common turn-off. And if people think they can turn off there and don't quite understand when they get there what the barriers mean, it'll cause a bit of a delay. And because I guess they're trying to cram people in 2.5 miles each, usually behind each arrival, eventually the guy down the back is going to go around. But I mean, Heathrow is famous for its late landing clearances. Unlike America, where you get a landing clearance at 35 miles after takeoff, you know, so I just leaving Heathrow's control zone, I usually get my landing clearance into New York. Joking. 30 miles would be a reasonable time to get your landing clearance into New York, with like 6 ahead. Here, they've got to have a positive landing clearance, which can mean, I've had them as late as in the flare, which means if I don't get it and I have to go around at that point, my wheels are actually going to be on the runway for a significant length of time before I can get the engines spooled up. So
we were just talking about that earlier, actually. And does your airline accept a land after clearance?
We have it in our procedures, and we know we can be given it, and it's up to the captain as to whether he's willing to accept it or not. So, trouble is, you've really got to have trust in the carrier ahead of you. So, I would look at the tail of the aircraft that's supposed to be clearing, and if he was from about 57 different airlines, I wouldn't take a land one on clearance, because I wouldn't be sure that he wouldn't do something stupid. But the other 5 airlines that I frequently see here at Heathrow, yeah, probably do that.
They're on 4 mile spacing today, according to Graham, even in this weather. And with that taxiway closed, somebody else managed to make a mess of getting off the runway reasonably quickly earlier.
Okay, won't they be using that fancy piece of software? It's just me looking at Graham, the one that actually predicates the spacing.
Yeah, Sonic will be working out the approach. We've got time-based separation.
That's the one, time-based separation.
So we can, if we think the gaps are a bit tight and it's all getting a bit hairy for us and everything's becoming a land after or a very tight clearance, we can ask for an extra mile.
But so it won't be a fixed 4 miles. It will be a variable distance depending on what the time-based separation is giving you.
I'm not sure at the minute. I think, yes, we are on time-based separation at the minute with 4 miles put in instead of 3 in the box, and then it will work out. If there's a headwind, we can reduce that slightly, or tailwind increase it slightly.
This is getting so sophisticated now, this piece of software that they're trying to flog around the world, that we are now required to give not only our aircraft type, but also our serial number. No, AJ. So you don't, not just a 330, but you are a 330-300 or a 200 or a 747-400, or there aren't many classics left.
Yeah.
Because those few knots are the difference in landing speed between what's the one I'm looking for? They're all the same type, but they're different models.
Yes.
Are sufficient to change the variable. So they're trying to get it well organised. I think it's a good piece of kit, keeps up the flow. We always like a good flow for people at our age. So the other day, for example, I came in, it was forecast to be poor visibility, and it was only a tempo and Prob 30, but it was still, expecting some holding, and we got a 09 snatch. What's that about? But they then insisted on putting two aeroplanes from the north in front of me, so it wasn't so much of a snatch. They were what I was expecting, half an hour's holding. And we didn't even go to the hole. We got turned away and sent round the corner to 09, which is always good.
Anyway, gents, and you, Nick, especially, thanks for talking to us.
You're very welcome. Lovely to be here and see so many very keen people staring at aeroplanes.
So, good morning, Dave. How are you?
Morning, Nev. I'm fine, thanks. Yes, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Well, it's a nice day for it, isn't it?
It's absolutely glorious out here, isn't it? Yeah. Good group of people, lovely weather for October. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a bit foggy and nasty yesterday, so I'm glad the weather's perked up today, actually.
It was actually, yes, and Saturday we went to Latouquet from Goodwood as well, and we had to leave late because the mist over Latouquet was quite severe, but another nice flight as well with a friend that's building his hours, so yeah, I'm scratching my aviation itch to the extreme at the moment.
Yeah, good for you. Do you do much GA flying at all?
No, not very much at all. I'm an AV geek, but I don't have a private pilot's licence. I'm a simmer, so I'll spend a lot of time in front of a computer. But knowing people in the community that I've met through APG and Plain Talking UK, etc., you kind of gravitate to each other, and suddenly you find someone local that's building their hours and says, "Oh, if you want to come along for some gas money, we'll go and have lunch in France or something," which is fantastic. It's a real enjoyable experience just to talk about aviation and the like with like-minded people and not getting looked at like you're some kind of weirdo in the pub.
Like there's 3 or 4 of us here at the moment.
Exactly, we should start a support group, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Do you come down to Heathrow very much at all?
Not as much. I used to do a lot of work in Hounslow, which was great because you've got Myrtle Avenue over by Hatton Cross. So I'd go and buy a sandwich and sit on the grass there and watch the heavies coming in. It was absolutely brilliant. One day I turned up and there was crowds. I couldn't find anywhere to park, and I was saying, "What's going on?" And they said, "You've just missed the inaugural BA 787 flight," and I'd just arrived as everyone was leaving. So that was good timing.
Brilliant. And no, very much appreciate you coming along today, Dave. Thanks ever so much.
My pleasure, Nev. Thanks for advertising it and for inviting us all along. It's been an absolute blast.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
thevoicesinyourhead.com. The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23-hour Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
So we came up with the idea of having a video course.
Obviously ours are better because we've got the experience on the aircraft and we know what we need to be looking at.
Something that myself and Andy started initially really to improve our own technical knowledge and put something out there. We saw that there was a gap and this wasn't a media that was being used for this purpose, and our hunch was right because there's obviously a market for it.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
Did I detect a new advert there?
Yes, you did. Yes, if you the keen viewer and listeners amongst you. And yeah, I'm very pleased to say that we have been doing some work with the guys from the A320 podcast. That's Matt and Andy. We've had them on the show previously, and we're doing a lot of work with them over the last few weeks, and we are helping them develop some of their videos for their simulation company. And next week they are launching a new facility, a new set of training videos called the A320 Lounge, and that's www.a320lounge.com. And if you're a pilot, you can sign up for training programs and videos and that kind of thing. I'll be having the guys on in a future episode to will be able to tell us all about what they've been up to. But they've been working very hard to put this together, and Matt and I have been helping them since, early part of the spring this year, and it's all come to fruition just this last week, actually. So that's one of the adverts you've seen. They've got a longer advert out as well, and an intro to their website. So they've both worked really hard on it, and it's going to be very good indeed. So I really hope it's going to be well received. And in fact, just got a message from Andy and Matt earlier, but unfortunately, poor old Andy is not able to fly at the moment. He's had an incident on a child's scooter. He says, I was racing my 9-year-old nephew around Sunderland beachfront when the front wheel dug into a rut and I went over the handlebars, carrying a lot of energy. So he's done his elbow in, and I think Matt's not flying at the moment either due to some other medical things. So the pair of them are watching lots of Jeremy Kyle at home, I presume, at the moment.
So, the good thing is they finally have time, because one of the reasons why it's taken so long actually is because both of them have been so busy, haven't they? I mean, obviously, you know, the airline that they fly for, of course, you've had what I call like the full summer schedule, if you like, is now sort of starting to come to an end, as I say. And so these guys have been so busy. And as I say, they and us have been working on said project for a number of months now. So in some respects, actually, it's nice that they're both having a sort of forced rest, because it means that finally we're able to talk about this very, very exciting project, as I say. But we won't go into too many details, as Nev said earlier, because we are actually going to have them on the show to tell us all about this amazing course that they've put together. So it's going to be, I think, very, very important for anyone who wants to fly an A320, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say on that note, actually, guys, that I listen to their show, the A320 podcast, and for those of you who may not have heard of the A320 podcast, it's on the iTunes library, and it's a really in-depth discussion each week on the inner workings of the A320, basically.
In fact, several times I've always referred to it. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, and I have said this to the guys actually when we were doing this. I said it's like the A320 podcast is literally like an audio Haynes manual of the A320 podcast. Of the 320 aircraft. It's if you love your engine tech and all that kind of thing, it is the best podcast, honestly. The detail that they go into about these crafts and all the various procedures that they have to go through, and that, I mean, it really is. If you are learning to fly and you're not listening to their podcast, especially if it's an A320 you're flying, then you're mad. You really do need to subscribe and listen to that.
Actually, Matt, I've got to say on that note, even if you're not a pilot, even if you're just an aviation enthusiast, an av geek, listen to the show, because it is incredibly interesting. I will say, the subjects they talk about, you just sit there and kick back and relax, really, for the entire show. But have you had a chance to listen? It goes over my head, to be fair. I've listened to a few episodes, and I just sit there going because I really don't understand anything. But if then it is fascinating to listen to. It's really, really good. But as I say, guys are going to be coming on the show hopefully in the next couple of weeks to talk more in detail, essentially, about what we've been up to. I was going to say, Armando, have you listened to their podcast yet?
Yeah, so before that, congratulations to you guys, to the three of you, for that collaboration with the A320 guys. It's
all Matt and Nev.
It's really cool to see the PTUK community grow and the efforts that you guys are doing. But yeah, I actually also subscribe to the A320 podcast as I sort of transition in the next year from a military career into the airline industry. I'm going to take some time off, but my preferred airline flies a lot of Airbus products there out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I listen to it actually just to kind of start filing stuff somewhere in the catacombs of my mind, and that combined with some technical reading and
these guys really know their stuff. That's the great thing. They really know their stuff there, and there's I'm sure there are things they don't know about the A320, but they're going to have to be pretty minor things, I think, like pretty like out there things if they don't know the answer to that question. They're really approachable, by the way, as well. So if there is something that you're not sure about, then you can get the I think it's their info. It's all on their website, basically. I have known them to sort of write personal replies to questions and stuff as well. So they really is a must listen.
Yeah, I love their approach to the pick a system, pick a chapter, let's talk about it. That's awesome.
So I suppose we better really move on with the show. There we go. I'm just moving back to the camera there. I tell you, it's very in depth. This while Matt's holding his glass of gin, his glass of iced water. I'll just say he doesn't drink and present.
Well, I thought that was compulsory, wasn't it? Hang on a minute, what's going on here? It's no. I have to confess that I am currently enjoying a large. So is it a Copperfield? No, what is it? It's the Adnams Copper.
Oh, Copper. Yeah, the Copper. Well, I forget the name of the thing. It's the Adnams gin anyway. That's made on the east coast of the UK.
And because Mum went home in the car and left me with her scooter, so I'm riding the scooter back to the caravan site when I've done that. So,
and we'll have some pictures of that. Matt riding the scooter coming on next week's show.
And I left my camera at home.
Anyway, moving swiftly on then. So we are going to move on with some military news. So if everyone's ready.
Oh, born ready, mate.
Armando?
Ready to go?
Nev?
Ready for the grey.
Let's go. So the first... that cuts off a bit quick there, Matt. Bit of editing to do there, I think. So the first story on the Royal Air Force's website, red arrows to light up North American skies on landmark tour. So Britain's elite Red Arrows are set to carry out their largest ever tour of North America as they paint the skies of the US and Canada red, white and blue. So announcing the Royal Air Force's aerobatics team historic 9-week program, Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson said the Red Arrows would display across America's, reaching millions of people and showcasing the very best of British aviation. The Red Arrows' return to the US will mark the first significant tour of North America in a generation, with the team last touring the country in 1993. Wow, was it that long ago? And the start of the deployment next year will be the first display the team has put on in the US in a decade, following the short visit by the Red Arrows to the east coast of the US back in 2008. As well as displaying a range of shows and events across Americas, the team will also attend engagements promoting the government's Great Campaign, visiting local schools, meeting with businesses and leaders, and showcasing the very best of British culture. The tour is expected to generate £2.5 billion in direct foreign investment for the UK. The senior RAF officer responsible for the Arrows said that the deployment of the Red Arrows will demonstrate the global reach and capability of the Royal Air Force and continuing support of the United Kingdom's defence and commerce industries. Together with the Great Britain campaign, Western Hawk 19 will showcase our excellent professionalism and proud heritage in education, engineering, technology and finance to all our allies. We are very much looking forward to our visit in August and September of 2019. The US program comes after the Red Arrow's successful 2016 tour of Asia Pacific and the Middle East. The 9-week, 20,000-mile deployment visited 17 countries and drew a global audience of 1 billion people, with the team displaying in China for the very first time. Come on in, Armando. Obviously, over in the US, that you'll be back there next year. I think you're going back for a look around.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love this. I think the Thunderbirds put on a good show. I think the Blue Angels put on a good show, but the Red Arrows put on just a slightly different show. And I love it. I love watching their show here in the UK, and I think American audiences are going to love the Red Arrows show. Plus, it's I think that's the Canadian Snowbirds, right, that come down to a few of the big air shows in the US. But I think the Red Arrows they're a great group. They're a great flying organization, and I think American audiences are really going to take well to them.
Nev, obviously, it's the best of British. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, looking forward to that. So, no, it'd be really good to see it. And no, glad that Armando appreciates it as well.
So, Matt, the next story is one for you on Flight Global, this one.
Indeed, yes. Flight Global is the website, and the headline is US approves possible Chinook sale to the Royal Air Force.
very nice
This is
of them.
exciting. The UK's long-expected procurement of an additional Boeing CH-47 Chinook heavy-lift helicopters has taken a final step forward, with US approval granted for a possible 16-unit acquisition. Detailed in a Defence Security Cooperation Agency notification dated the 19th of October, the approval covers the potential sale of up to 16 Chinooks in an extended range configuration to be acquired by the US foreign military sale process. The DSCA values a deal at $3.5 billion. It also incorporates weapons, including the M134D-T miniguns and 7.62mm machine guns, as well as training and support. London has for several years indicated a requirement for additional examples of the tandem rotor type to replace some of the oldest examples in the Royal Air Force fleet, which in many cases are approaching nearly 40 years old. Although not specifically identified in the DSCA notice, some of the additional equipment listed corresponds to that found on the MH-47G Special Forces variant. The RAF currently fields a fleet of 60 Chinooks with the 14 newest examples designated as HC6 in UK service, dating from a 2011 order. 8 older long-range models have been upgraded with new avionics to the HC5 standard. Earlier this year, Air Commander Al Smith, the capability air manoeuvre at the UK's Joint Helicopter Command, said the procurement of the new helicopters was at an early stage. In addition, he indicated that the UK would likely wait for delivery until the Block 2 variant of the Chinook was available in around about 2023.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Armando, for allowing us to have some Chinooks.
that's a workhorse, man. That airplane's been around for a long time. Yeah. And those M134D miniguns, if you Google that, that's a 6-barrel 7.62 millimeter Gatling gun. I think it's got a couple thousand rounds per minute, and I believe the additional 7.62 millimeter machine guns they're putting on the side are M240s, which have been proven on MH53s, on MH60s, and pretty much every helicopter out there. So I think this thing is going to be a pretty powerful piece of machinery.
It's good news for us.
Well, anyway. I mean, it is a pretty powerful piece of machinery.
At least we're getting some new kit here in the UK. It'll go with our new aircraft carrier that we've finally got and stuff, and aircraft to go on it as well. So, Nev,
I appreciate nobody else is really going to care, but just for reference, it was the Adnams Copperhouse gin.
Copperhouse.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Everyone's evening is now complete. You can all rest.
So, Nev, another one on Flight Global for you.
Yes, we like the Flight Global website, don't we? Because it's got a nice font, and I like reading it.
It's nice to read, isn't it?
It is, yes, and the spacing's quite nice as well. But actually, seriously, this is all about the Embraer KC-390, which has received its type certification from the Brazilian Aviation Authority. And a ceremony was held at Brasilia Air Force Base to deliver the civil certificate of airworthiness to Embraer on the 23rd of October. It was attended by Brazilian President Michel Temer, as well as the country's defense minister and Lieutenant Brigadier General Nivaldo Rossato, its Air Force commander. The certification of the KC-390, the largest and most complex aircraft developed throughout Embraer's history, expresses the high technological level achieved by the company, said Paulo Cesar de Souza e Silva, President and Chief Executive of Embraer. I would like to congratulate the teams that participated in the development of this program in partnership with the Brazilian Air Force. The aircraft is expected to reach final operational capability by the end of 2019 when it receives its military certification. Embraer has said that the first production aircraft will be delivered to the Brazilian Air Force in the first half of 2019. Flight Fleets Analyzer shows that the service has 28 firm orders. The first series production example of the KC-390 made its maiden flight on the 9th of October, and that aircraft joined 2 other test aircraft. As of early November, these had logged 1,900 flight hours. The KC-390 is designed to perform missions such as cargo and troop transport, troop and cargo air delivery, aerial refueling, search and rescue, and forest firefighting. Embraer is attempting to push the medium-sized twin-turbine-powered transport aircraft into a military transport market dominated for decades by the Lockheed Martin C-130 by pitching what it claims to be the lowest life cycle cost in the market. There are 38 letters of intent from international customers, including from Argentina, 6 from Chile, 12 from Colombia, 2 from the Czech Republic, and 6 from Portugal. Embraer aims to make inroads into the US and international markets by leaning on an agreement that would have Boeing market and sell the transport. What's more, after establishing a joint venture with Boeing that gives the American aerospace manufacturer complete control over its commercial aircraft unit, Embraer says it also plans to explore the establishment of a joint venture around the KC-390, according to a memorandum of understanding released this month by the company. The 2 companies are exploring the establishment of a manufacturing plant for the KC-390 in the USA, according to a Brazilian newspaper. So that's pretty good, and that's good to see they've got some positive orders on the way, hopefully.
Yeah, I think I've taken all the military responses here. It's a great airplane. I was looking at it, and it's so there's not a lot of airplanes out there. So you've got the long in the tooth C-130, which is still going strong. It's been 60 years or so with the new J models coming online. But the A400, I think we were in Farnborough or Riyadh. I think they did the displays at both of them. Amazing airplane, but seeing this Embraer KC-390, it's got 2 drogue-style refueling pods on the wings, as well as a ramp and door. I think that ramp and door is very important for anybody trying to get into this kind of cargo military market, so they can both do airdrop as well as kind of land and onload and offload vehicles and personnel. So the Casa 295 is out there. That's a little bit smaller. You can the cargo compartment is kind of small. So I think other than the A400 and the C-130, the getting this KC-390 in there in the mix is going to be probably pretty lucrative for Embraer.
Do you think this is much of a contender for the Hercules?
Yeah, I think so. I think it will be. It looks a little bit like the Dodo jet, the Dornier jet. It's a Dornier 328 or something like that. It looks just bigger than that. But so jet engines have their own pros and cons when you're trying to do unimproved airstrip type stuff, but obviously the C-17s and things like that have proven that you can overcome that. So I look forward to seeing what it does.
Yep. So the next story then, Armando, is for you. This one is on the airforce-technology.com website.
It is. It says USAF jets conclude dissimilar air combat training at RAF Lakenheath. The U.S. Air Force's Liberty Wing has completed a dissimilar air combat training, DACT, at RAF Lakenheath in the United Kingdom. During the training, a series of large force exercises were carried out with fifth-generation aircraft and joint service partners. The fifth-generation F-22 Raptor stealth tactical fighter aircraft assigned to the 1st Fighter Wing from Langley, that's in Virginia, and the FA-18 Super Hornets combat jets assigned to Carrier Air Wing 1 participated in the USAF's DACT. We love our acronyms. Let's see. FA-18 Hornets were deployed from the U.S. Navy's USS Harry S. Truman. They did some exercises here in East Anglia between 4th and 5th gen fighters, and including refueling with the 100th Air Refueling Wing KC-135s out of RAF Mildenhall and the NATO E-3 Sentry. So this is really important for us to do. Sorry, for them to do dissimilar aircraft training, especially between 4th and 5th gen fighters. It's important to get the communications, the tactics, the techniques down. Really, just And getting the Navy in there with their F-18s, I think, was a good idea too. So I don't know where that aircraft carrier is in the world right now, but I know they were working the aviation enthusiasts site, so the plane spotters. They're at Lake and Heath and Mildenhall. Had a great time, and they got some amazing pictures of these aircraft. So very cool. Again, it's just about learning about each other, even sometimes within the same service or your sister service. So it's important to.
I think we need to agree, Nev, Matt, that we need to just have Armando as our military guy each week.
Military expert. That's yeah, absolutely. Amen.
Yeah. Okay. Nev,
resident grey chap. Yeah, I'm going to vote for that.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that, Nev. Cheers.
I think Pip and Al are going to vote me off the island here.
No, they won't.
Yeah, we're going to have to add you to the team.
They don't have to talk about grey stuff. That's
I'll
as you take another sip, right, Matt?
Yeah.
I'll go over contracts when we're off air with Armando. And
okay. I'm not sure we can afford his fees, to be honest with you, Carlos, but hey, it's worth a try.
So, Nev, what have we got coming up next?
Oh, yes. We do give Pip a bit of a hard time sometimes because he doesn't, we ask him to send in a segment and all the rest of it. And sometimes it's a bit late. Sometimes it never turns up at all. However, he has excelled himself on this occasion, and I think it's a really interesting segment that he's put together for us this week. So let's take a listen.
Plane safety from the flight deck with pilot Pip.
Good morning, everybody, from Geneva in Switzerland. It's turning out to be a rather pleasant, warm, autumnal day here. Not like yesterday, however, when I woke up in Tirana in Albania, which is just opposite Greece in southern Europe. It was a decidedly chilly morning. Ground fog was just forming over the airport. A real chill in the air, and it got me thinking that those winter days are not so very far away at all, when we're going to have to start de-icing the aeroplane, getting rid of all that frost and ice and snow. So I need to get into the books a little bit and just revise our winter operations procedures. It's well worth going back and just having a look through those chapters. There's a lot of good information out there, and it's easily forgotten as well, so it's important to refresh our memories. But waking up yesterday in Albania, in Tirana, it also reminded me of one of my first real emergencies that I ever had to deal with in an aircraft. One of those true brown trouser moments. And it must have been at least 12 years ago now, and many thousands of hours back in the logbook. It was back in the days when I was flying the Beech 1900D, the Beechcraft 1900. Great little aeroplane. It's a 19-seat turboprop aircraft, quite similar to the Jetstream 32 series. Now, you don't see too many Beech 1900s in Europe. There's a company called Twinjet in France that has some. There's a few floating around in Portugal, and one or two others dotted around. But really, you don't see them so much in Europe. They're much more common over in the States, where they're used as a regional commuter airliner. Now, the Beech 1900 is a funny little aeroplane. I thought it was great. It was developed from the original 1900C series, which was a much smaller. It was basically a big King Air 350, but it didn't have a proper stand-up cabin, which not many of those 19-seat turboprop aircraft do. So they developed the Beech 1900D, which was much bigger, a much fatter aircraft, and it had a proper stand-up cabin. But I guess when they did that and they took it out to fly it didn't quite fly in a straight line. So they started adding bits to the wing and then adding little things to the tail. And they'd do this and then it would fly that way, so they have to add something else to the other side. And eventually, I guess, they got it to fly in a straight line. But the result was a very odd-looking aircraft with lots of aerodynamic surfaces hanging off all over it. Now, I thought it was quite a good-looking aeroplane. I was obviously in the minority because most people call it a bit of a pig. But anyway, that was my first multi-crew aircraft. And I used to fly it we used to do AOG operations, which stands for Aircraft on Ground. So when an aircraft breaks, they burst a tyre or an engine falls off or something like that, instead of
having it sit on the ground there for a long time while they ship in parts and engineers, they might contact someone like us, an AOG support operator, who will fly in engineers and spare parts. So that's what I used to do in the Beech 1900, and it was a great fun little operation. Used to be just, 2 pilots obviously, and a couple of engineers and some spare parts. So usually we'd just be flying around, nice simple operation. It was good fun. And on this particular occasion, we were down in Albania, in Tirana, with just the 2 of us and 1 engineer, and whatever the job was, it was completed, and we were departing to fly back to, well, I don't remember where it was, but it was certainly heading back towards mainland Europe. Now, the day in question was, well, rather like this one actually, a nice, sunny, clear autumn day. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was a pleasant day, no big issues. We weren't expecting any drama. I was flying with my good friend Victor. He was the captain, I was the first officer. Now, I can tell you, there is no end of fun flying with a captain called Victor. What's your vector, Victor? You know the old classic airplane line. That never ever gets old. At least not as far as I'm concerned. Maybe for Victor it got pretty old pretty quick, but for me that was hours of endless fun. What's your vector, Victor? So there we were, chugging along. We had departed Tirana, heading generally in a northwesterly direction up towards the coast of Italy. Now the Beech 1900 is not a particularly fast aeroplane, nor does it go particularly high. So if memory serves, we were just passing through probably about flight level 200, so 20,000 feet, maybe 25 minutes into the journey, just getting towards the top of climb. And we were chatting about this and that, I don't remember what, when all of a sudden the most pungent, acrid smell I've ever smelt in my life permeated through the cabin. And I remember saying to Victor mid-sentence, "Hey, do you smell that?" And he took a big breath, and it was, yes, of course, this smell, where's that coming from? And we turned around to look back down the cabin, only to see our colleague, the engineer, whose name unfortunately I've forgotten, to see him he was obviously eating his lunch, he had a sandwich, he was kind of holding it up to his mouth in mid-bite, and we saw him disappear in a thick, thick fog of white smoke, filling the cabin and very quickly rushing forwards towards the cockpit. Well, that's one to stop you in your tracks, I can tell you. Now, I must say, initially, because of this acrid, horrible smell, I thought this was an electrical burning, smoke from electrical burning. But of course, right then and there, we didn't have time to diagnose the problem. I remember Victor saying to me, "Put your mask on, your oxygen mask," and I didn't need to be told twice, so I quickly put that thing on, took it out from its storage pouch. It was one of these inflatable types, I seem to remember, where you squeeze the trigger and air flows through the straps and you can just pop it over your head. Quick donning mask, very good piece of equipment. So we were probably only about 10 minutes out from the coast across the Adriatic. So I was pilot not flying, or pilot monitoring as we call it now. Victor was pilot flying, and he immediately turned us back towards Tirana Airport. And I, at about the same time, put out a mayday call, my first ever mayday call. Maybe perhaps my voice was a little bit wobbly as I did so. Mayday, 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 whatever our call sign was. Returning to the airfield, we have smoke in the cabin. Now, if I hadn't made clear, at this point in my career, I was fairly green. This is my first, as I said earlier, my first multi-crew job in a kind of airline environment, if you like. All of my hours up until that point had been single pilot in mostly twin pistons doing aerial survey operations. So I was pretty wet behind the ears, pretty inexperienced. Probably had only, 1700 hours under my belt at that point. Now, the correct course of action, which we actually did do, would be to perform the memory items from the QRH. So that involves putting the oxygen mask on, establishing communications, turning the microphone to the oxygen mask. I don't remember exactly for the Beech 1900 if the memory items also involved maybe opening the outflow valves to help get rid of the smoke. I don't recall. But I do remember being very much kind of a rabbit in the headlights almost, very startled by this completely unexpected event. You know, when we practice these things in the sims, it's all very kind of surgical and methodical. You do your memory items, you get the QRH, the checklist out, and you start ploughing through the checklist one item at a time. This back and forth communication. But as I recall, it was a little bit more slapdash than that in this real-life incident. I don't recall that we ever actually physically got the QRH checklist out, although I'm pretty certain we covered most of the items in it just by sort of common sense working through, I suppose, getting the oxygen masks on, starting to open the outflow valves, close engine bleeds, that sort of thing. And we must have done something right, because certainly we did get the smoke to clear before we landed. But as I said earlier, I thought, in fact I think we both thought, that this was smoke coming from some kind of electrical burning. I thought we had an electrical fire just because of this really strong, acrid smell. But it was Victor actually who pointed out that the smoke in fact was coming from the ground level. Now the Beech 1900 has all the air conditioning outlets underneath the seat, so it was obviously something coming through the environmental system. But it certainly took us a few minutes to realise that. So anyhow, we continued at high speed back towards Tirana. I guess we had a tailwind going back, because we actually got back there very, very quickly indeed. I remember talking to the engineer, or shouting at the engineer, telling him that we couldn't give him the oxygen masks, because he was obviously looking at us on oxygen masks and wondering why all he had to combat the smoke was a soggy, smoky sandwich. But obviously when you've got a cabin filled with smoke, generally the idea is you don't want to drop the oxygen mask, because A, you don't want to introduce pure oxygen into a potential fire, and also if you give a passenger an oxygen mask, what's he going to do? Or she is going to grab that oxygen mask, put it over their mouth, and take in a great big lungful of air. But remember, those oxygen masks in the passenger cabin are diluted air. It's mixed with the cabin air, so all they're going to do is just breathe in more smoke. So best not to give them the oxygen mask. Probably about the best thing you can do is get them to, if you've got one available, a damp cloth or a damp flannel, just put that over their nose and mouth, and that will just help filter out the smoke. But of course, we didn't have one of those immediately to hand in the time available to us. Now, I do remember communication with ATC was a little bit difficult. You know, Albania, it's not the centre of civilization, and their English, although it was totally acceptable within the norms of ATC communication, once you get outside those standard sort of phrases, climb, descent, etc., and you just start speaking plain English, then it gets a little more difficult to fully converse. But anyway, they did a great job. We were cleared straight in. Tirana, of course, is not a particularly busy international airport. I seem to remember there was one aircraft ahead of us. Anyway, we were cleared in, and I do remember actually, again, remember I was pretty inexperienced. I do remember looking up from whatever I was doing and just trying to work out where the hell we were, because I kind of lost all situational awareness in a navigational sense, at least. I remember saying to Victor, hey, do you know where the airport is? And much to his credit, because he's a much better pilot than I am, he said, yeah, it's over there. So that was fine, but that was kind of interesting. So there we go, we were cleared in. As I say, the smoke did actually clear before we landed, so we landed with a clear cabin, and we were met, of course, by all the fire engines with the lights and the sirens and everything else, and escorted up to a stand on the north side of the airfield. But that was very much the emergency over. We, of course, phoned into the company. The aircraft obviously was grounded from that point until they could get someone out to have a look at it. And actually, as a little side note, we never did find out where the smoke came from. We guessed it was probably just a bit of plastic or a bit of lining somewhere within the air conditioning system had fallen onto some hot part of the aircraft and was just slowly melting away. But it never reoccurred. The crew who took it out of Tirana a week or so later didn't report any problems. The only thing left to do at that point was to, well, according to our procedures and our ops manuals, when we've been involved in a smoke incident, we're meant to go to hospital to have a blood test to see if if everything's okay, if you've breathed in any poisonous substances. But, and no offence to any Albanians out there, we didn't much fancy going to a hospital in Albania. Maybe I got the wrong impression here, but our feeling was that probably wasn't the first world healthcare out there, so we didn't fancy going and getting stabbed with a needle. But what we did do, however, is phone up our third-party medical provider, Medair, in our case. This is a service available to a lot of airlines. If you've got an in-flight medical emergency, you can phone them up and you get put through to a doctor and they'll give you some advice there and then. So we thought, right, well, rather than go to hospital, we'll just have a chat with a doctor, someone we can trust. So we phoned up, and I remember it took an inordinate amount of time on the phone with a sort of an admin nurse before we got through to a doctor. She wanted all of our names, our dates of birth, our addresses, what our favourite colour is, etc., etc. All kinds of weird information that didn't seem particularly relevant. And after 20-25 minutes or so, we eventually got through to a doctor who said, "Do you feel okay?" And we said, "Yes." And he said, "Have you been breathing fresh air for the last half an hour or so?" And we said, "Yes." And he said, "All right, well, you're fine. Off you go then." So I was kind of left scratching my head a little bit there. I wouldn't like to go through that with a genuine in-flight medical emergency, having to get through all that ridiculous information before you can actually speak to a doctor. But it was very useful to use the service, in a real-life incident. But it did make me think later on, as we kind of sat back and ran through everything in our heads, that maybe it wasn't the best handled emergency. Whilst we certainly probably went through all the correct steps, it's not how we would practice it in the sim these days or how I would expect to handle an emergency this day. It was very much kind of handled off the cuff, a little bit unstructured. So there we go. That's just a learning experience in the life of a pilot. And, since then there have been a few other brown trouser moments, a few emergencies, some engine failures, that kind of thing, which have been handled, at least personally, on a much more, should we say, professional way. But you know what they say, you got to fill your bucket of experience before you empty your bucket of luck. Okay, catch up with you all at some other time. Until then, fly safe.
Two pearls of food for thought there, I think, from Pip today. Well done, Pip. Thank you for that.
I was a bit worried where he was going with that for a minute. His pearls of wisdom at the end there, I was a bit frightened, I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, with all the talk of oxygen masks and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
It's a fascinating tale, actually. You sort of forget that all these wonderful pilots that we've been very lucky to get to know, like Pip and obviously Captain Nick, etc. You sort of forget, obviously, that they were rookies themselves. Once it's interesting listening. Thanks for that, Pip. It was great.
Yeah, we've very much enjoyed that, and I'm sure Pip will have another segment into us soon. He's in the chat room.
If we're very lucky, we might get another one before the end of the year. You never know.
Oi, don't push your luck too much. So I must say,
sorry, Pip.
The chat room's been very busy since we've been having a Pip segment play. There's quite a lot of chat between the APG crew. I did notice in there.
As you do.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Steph. Hello, Captain Nick. Hello, Captain Jeff. And Evan Shu is in the chat room now as well. So hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Evan.
Yes, Australia is waking up. Or is it New Zealand? No, hang on.
Apparently, it's a place to be on a Friday night.
Well, obviously, goes without saying.
So we're going to start to bring the show to a close now. So thank you very much again to Pip for sending that in. And don't forget, we're going to give you some social media links now, like Matt. So where can people go and find various things about T-shirts and stuff?
Indeed, yes. So if you want to buy yourself a T-shirt, and as I say, I keep promising, and there will be very soon mugs available as well. You take yourself to www.planetalkinguk.com. On that website, not only can you buy things like T-shirts, you can find all the information you could ever possibly want to know about our wonderful crew, and also how you get in touch with the show. So you can either fill in the form on our Contact Us page, or you can write to us if you've got feedback that you'd like to send us, even if it's negative. We don't mind. We like to, as I say, we're making this show for you guys, so we're always happy to take criticism by whatever means, and you can do that by writing to us on podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. On social media, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, just search for Plane Talking UK, all as one word. That's Plane Talking UK, all as one word.
And don't forget, if you download the show through iTunes, which I'm sure many of you do, including me, because I download the show through iTunes. I don't know why, it's our own show, but there we go, that's just me. Don't forget to, if you get a chance, leave us a little a review on iTunes, because that's very, very good to do. And also, not forgetting as well, everyone who downloads the show through all the other various means, Stitcher and Podbean, and there's loads of... There is actually, Matt, when you look on the Play Store, there's actually quite a lot of podcast downloading type apps. Have you had a chance?
Yes, there is. There's like Stitcher. You've
That's
got
it, yeah.
what's the other one? There's Audio. Is it something like Audio Bully or something like that? There's as I say, there's loads of bits and pieces there. It doesn't have to be iTunes. You can use any decent. Basically, you'll find us also in Spotify. You can find us on TuneIn, as I say. So basically, wherever popular podcasts are popular, you will find us lurking in the cupboard there somewhere.
What's your preferred download choice?
I just use Apple. Just Apple Podcast app.
Sorry to hear that.
Never. I presume you're the same. Are you an iTunes man?
Sorry, is there anything else? I didn't realise there's another platform at all.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Yes.
Oh dear.
Indeed.
Oh, I better not show you the picture that Matty Caton sent me earlier this week of an Apple type thing. But anyway, I'll bring that up next week. Yeah. Our T-shirt chap, yeah, that was quite amusing. I'll have to send that in the group chat so you can have a look.
Oh, right. Okay. I look forward to that with no excitement whatsoever. Anyway, I need to wrap up, guys, because I'm supposed to have left my conference room 8 minutes ago.
Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold the press. Because we have got a very important announcement, from Nev. So, Nev, fire away.
I shan't be on the show next week because I will be in Gibraltar. And I'm taking on my video gear because those very nice people at the RAF and NATS have agreed that I can interview the tower controller at Gibraltar Airport. So I should be doing that next week. And we've got another very interesting grey segment coming up. In fact, it's so important we felt we couldn't do it ourselves. So we've actually subcontracted that interview to our good friend Captain Nick, and we'll be bringing that to you later in November. We just had that all confirmed today, actually. So really looking forward to doing that. And it's going to be a biggie.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
I won't be able to join next week either, Matt. So I don't know whether we're going to move the show time to a different day next week.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll have a little chat about that afterwards then, shall we, children? Okay. I'm not doing it on my own. Armando, what are you doing next week?
I think I got a thing. No, I'll look at my
schedule. He's doing his hair.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is much maintenance required, no doubt. Yes. So we'll have a chat. So basically, if you are wanting to catch the live show, then make sure you're following our social media. We'll tweet Facebook, as soon as we know as to when the live show will be next week. But there will still be a show. Just don't quite know what, where, or when by the sound of it. So time to go, I think, guys.
So we're going to wrap up episode number 240 of the show. Big thanks again to everyone who's joined us in YouTube. Thanks to all the family in YouTube. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. Don't forget your Sunday roast dinners, because I'm looking forward to mine this weekend. So from me, Carlos here, and Armando in the PTUK studio, it's a big goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
And from me here in West Runton, thank you to all our wonderful people who listen to and download our podcast, because obviously that is where our majority audience is, and it wouldn't be the same without you. As I say, do please feel free to join in with your comments, as I say, by emailing podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Yeah, so from a very wet and windy West Runton, it's goodbye from me.
And from Mr. Neville Bounds.
Yes, have a good weekend, everybody. Great to see everybody again in the chat room, and thank you for your participation.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.